I want to welcome you to the Wyandot County Museum and our latest edition of Thursday Evenings at the Museum. While we're getting ready for tonight's program, as usual, we have several announcements. So Bonnie's left me up here alone, so I guess I get to do a lot of them. So first we'll start off. In 2 weeks, we'll have our next Thursday evening program. And we have scheduled Dave Fadley, one of our board members, and he is going to talk about the early years of baseball. Not necessarily Wyandot County baseball, but just the early baseball in general, the history, including several of the Wyandot County residents that played in the early 1900s. Also, we have coming up probably our biggest thing of the year on Saturday. Make sure that you're all here for the annual ice cream social from 12 to 4. And if you have antique vehicles, you can drive them in. And if you're an antique yourself, make sure that you attend. So, but we'll have the street blocked off again for the antique cars. The Black Swamp Buggy Club is supposed to come. Hopefully the weather's nice and we may have carriage rides, wagon rides again this year. WXML will be doing a live remote, and thanks to a lot of behind the scenes work, the Upper Sandusky Community Band will be performing again this year at 2 o'clock with their patriotic music. And then this is the chance, since the museum and the schoolhouse will be open, if you haven't seen the new Arts Department Store exhibit, you could actually come and walk through that upstairs. Or if you can't make it upstairs, thanks to our board member Randy, who coordinated, they recorded me doing a tour of the second floor, which is on our YouTube page. So it's not just the Arts Department Store, it's the entire second floor, which every time I watch it, I get embarrassed at seeing myself. One of the other things that we have that'll be a little bit an addition this year, we're going to be having a raffle for a 28-inch Blackstone griddle kit and a propane tank, which is out in the hallway. The tickets are $10 each or 3 for $20, and we'll be having the drawing right after the community band plays. Now, you can buy tickets tonight. The only caveat is you need to come to the ice cream social and be there so that you can show your winning ticket to us. So, in addition to that, I want to bring Woody, our co-president, up here, who has something else to talk to you about.
All right, this year we're again sponsoring a Historical Society raffle. Okay, a little bit different this year. We usually just raffle off or maybe a gun or 2 guns. But this year we kind of changed it up a little bit. We are going to raffle off a Kimber 1911. This is a 45 ACP gun, or you can win a $1,000 gift card to A&A Grocery. So we are kind of giving it this. If somebody doesn't want to contribute, maybe win a gun, you can contribute and win a $1,000 gift card to A&A Grocery. Now the first winner drawn, we'll draw this on Veterans Day. The first winner drawn has his choice, his or her choice of what they want, a gun or the gift certificate. The second person drawn will get the remaining prize. So I mean, this is a great opportunity. The tickets are only $20 a piece, and I have tickets over here now if anybody be interested. So again, this is a great. This is one of our big social. I mean, this is one of our what's the big word I'm looking for? Fundraiser. That's the big 2 words I was looking for. I'm old. I'm one of those antique people he was just talking about.
Where's the drawing going to be?
Pardon me, sir?
Where's the drawing
going to be? Here, right here at the museum. Yes,
It'll be here during our Veterans Day program. It'll be on Veterans Day, about 4 o'clock on Veterans Day.
So tell your friends, and if you're interested, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to accommodate. Thank you, people.
But you do not need to be present to win that one.
No.
So buy all the tickets you want now, and I'll pull your name out when it comes November. Yeah, I've got one of my friends, a former board member, that every year is like, why didn't you pick your name? You promised me. We also, we've got something exciting coming up later this month up at the Overland Inn. Sarah Fisher, our curator up there, is working on a quilt show, which will display a lot of early 19th century quilts, a lot of them from the collection of Brian Long, who a lot of you know, who was curator here for a while. We're going to pull out some of the ones that out of our collection that haven't been on display. We've got quite a few that have been donated over the last year or so. So there's some exciting quilts that'll be up there. So that'll be, I believe, the weekend of July 24th and 25th. So we'll be putting some publicity out about that.
I just have one thing. 2 weeks ago, when I told the audience about this evening, I sort of introduced it by saying, you know, how many people had to go out of town to be born in a different hospital, and I know several people had to go to Bucyrus. Well, Jim Gatchell reminded me that some people didn't go to a hospital to be born. So anyway, said the doctor charged $5.
Yeah, not only that, the fee was $5, and to the doctor, that happened to be during the Depression, 1935. Dad had worked 13 years at the brickyard, so he had a few dollars, and he paid $5 in cash to get me back.
Wow.
And the doctor, it was so big to the doctor, he said, I don't care how many kids you have, it'll be $5 apiece.
No, okay, that is something for our hospital. You could run a special.
Now Chloe knows how much her husband's worth. So it's worth $5.
Wow.
So anytime you want to get rid of him, just ask somebody to give you $6 and you'll make a profit.
It's sold. Okay, so our hospital, we're so happy to have such a wonderful building. I'm telling you, I know my husband and I have made very many uses of your hospital. It's a wonderful place. I feel safe there. I think other people do too. I feel safe in good hands, so I'm not sure who to hand this to.
I'll start it and then
Okay.
I'll turn it over. But I'm not going to use the microphone. I hope you can hear me all. So thank you for coming out tonight to learn a little bit more about the history of Wyandot Memorial. I have a team approach here because I'm certainly not the most best to talk about the history, but we have Thelma Warfel, who actually was a nurse at Wyandot from 1959 till she retired in 1997. Or 1996, okay. You're off.
Anytime you correct us, you have to use
Yeah, you have to use the microphone.
microphone.
She's going to correct us because we're going to. So she retired as the manager of the emergency department in 1996. So she'll have a lot to share with us. We actually have Dr. Solikoff here as well. So he had many, many years at the hospital. So he'll correct us if we're making a mistake as well. And Kemerley is our director of corporate communications and donor relations. And she has been our historian, the Wyandot Memorial historian. She's been at the hospital for 28 years, so we're going to tag team this. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ann.
Thank you, Ty. And I could not have put this together without Thelma's help, because after Thelma retired, she and Phyllis Brazina, another nurse, put scrapbooks together so that everything is very, very organized. So a huge thank you to Thelma. And I still call her when I have questions about things. So I appreciate you being here and correcting me tonight. We'll see if I can get this to go. Maybe? No, that's not. This is. No, I may have to ask Ron. To get this to just go forward? Is it on? No?
Oh, I thought so.
Just let Thelma do it.
Now we'll go. Perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah, we'll see if I can talk and flip. Whoops. Well, to talk about the history of the hospital, we really have to talk about the medical society. It was our local county medical society that chartered in 1902 that met in an organized fashion long before the hospital opened. And there were names, very familiar names, like Dr. McConnell and Dr. Noss, Dr. Sampson, that were there when we chartered it in 1902 for the Medical Society. The Medical Society, talking about fees, they even agreed upon a fee schedule and printed this up. So it included dressing recent wounds anywhere from 50 cents to $2. They agreed upon that. For, let's see, if you had an office consultation, anywhere from $2 to $5. So they had agreed on a fee schedule. They also had topics. They had special speakers come in to talk about state legislation or public health, school health. They were very interested in knowing the latest and greatest at that time. Medical rosters here that go on from the 30s and the 40s, more familiar names like Dr. Bowman, Dr. Garster, Dr. Maloney, Dr. Keenan, and I know there are a few things here in the museum with Dr. Keenan. If I do the top thing,
There should be a pointer there somewhere.
yeah, oh yeah, Dr. Bowman, Dr. Maloney, there's Dr. Keenan, Dr. Noss, Dr. Montgomery, you get down here to Dr. F.M. Smith from Sycamore. What was really nice, it was not just Upper Sandusky. There were doctors in all of our outlying villages that came together as the Medical Society. And they met in different locations. There wasn't a hospital to meet at, so they met at the Gull House in Cary. They met at the Bow and Arrow here in town. They met at the Evergreens. They met at the Lions Club room, which I didn't know there was a Lions Club room. So all different sorts of places that they met, and often had a bounteous meal, the minutes said. This one in particular, this is 1938. This is the first time in the Medical Society minutes that we see mention where they're talking about a hospital. And it's Dr. Maloney turned the meeting over to Dr. Bowman, who presented the hospital proposition. And they had a general roundtable discussion about that. And it was at this meeting that the society voted to approve the building of a hospital in Wyandot County. Well, the first issue was a countywide issue, a bond issue, and the voters turned it down. You could see the structure was to be a lower level, a first floor, and a second floor. And let's see what my notes. Oh, it was supposed to be $55,000 worth of county bonds. That's what the voters turned down. The proposed cost for the entire building was $100,000, with $45,000 funded by the PWA, the Public Works Administration, by a grant from the PWA. They were going to have patient rooms as well as nurses' quarters because you would have stayed there, correct?
Oh,
Yeah. At that time. That failed in '38. But the Medical Society kept talking about building a hospital. These are meeting minutes from 1941, and the Medical Society met with the Lions Club and the Chamber of Commerce to continue discussions, not sure what to do about trying to do something that would be a hospital for Upper Sandusky and adjoining townships. In 1942, we received permission because it became law that the townships could join together as a joint district, and that made all the difference for us. So in 1944, we established the Crane, Mifflin, Pitt, and Salem Joint Township Hospital District of our 4 townships right here. The following year, a Board of Governors was established. So of the 4 townships, their elected township trustees serve on the joint township board, and that board appoints our Board of Governors. They are the ones responsible for the operations of the hospital. To pay for the first hospital, to pay for Wyandot Memorial, the Hill-Burton Act was a big help. This was passed in 1946, and it was a federal law that gave funds for hospitals, really for construction and modernization. And these monies were doled out to the states to allocate. Majority of the funds were designated for communities just like ours, small rural communities. But the Hill-Burton Act did require local dollars as well. So 2 issues did go before the voters in those 4 townships to raise money. They also had a local hospital fund drive. And donors that gave money or pledged money received a certificate like this that they contributed to the hospital building fund. And it was a very successful endeavor. Their original goal was right around $47,000, and they more than topped that. This article in the Daily Chief indicated $95,000 was raised, but by the end, it really ended up being over $100,000. They were able to raise, and 3,000 donors from all over the county were very, very supportive. In the Chief, it reports, there were plenty of skeptics who said that amount could never be raised, but those who thought that were certainly underestimating the generosity of the people throughout the county. The drive has been described as the biggest financial project of its kind ever undertaken in the county. So folks were very, very proud. A column in the Chief the following day even mentioned that our modern homes are not equipped to give proper care to the sick or to take care of emergency cases. And the editor wrote, "We know of nothing that has done more to knit together the interests of the entire county to develop a spirit of unity." So we've got the bond issues that were passed. We have the money from Hill-Burton, and we have the hospital fund drive that ended up right around $110,000. So there was $422,000 for the hospital to be built. But we need a place. The Village of Upper Sandusky gifted for $10 a 7-acre plot on the edge of town. They later sold a few more acres. We currently sit on 10 acres altogether, but the original 7 acres came from the village. Dr. Bowman, one of our founding fathers, prepared the application to construct, and he was very, very persistent in wanting to make headway on this. But there were a lot of delays at that time. When we think about the year, we're back in the late 40s, and a lot of monies at that point had been redirected. The Veterans Housing Program directed resources, equipment, and skilled labor into residential construction. So the project here had been put on delay, even though he says that the plans and the specifications were completed prior. They just were waiting, but he describes a lot of overcrowding at local hospitals. So his persistence paid off. I will mention too, Dr. Bowman's application describes the building pretty well. It's a fireproof construction of brick and concrete, 1 story, and a basement that's going to be in a T shape. And the projection is that it will accommodate 35 patients. We do get the go-ahead. This is in 1948, if I'm reading that right. And the state official that was interviewed here at the board meeting indicated it was the continual prodding from Dr. Bowman that kept the hospital project alive before his department at the state level. So Dr. Bowman really had a passion for this facility to be built. The first shovel of dirt, the groundbreaking, was held in June of '49, and just a few days later, then construction began. This picture is taken from across the road where the high school stands now, but high school was not there yet. In 1949, it was a field. As evidenced again here, it's about a year later in May of '50. So it looks like the ground's been worked across the field, but not the finishing touches yet on the building. By here though, I'm thinking those are beams. So maybe we're in July, August, we're almost done. Awnings are up on the front of the building. Signage is up over the main entrance. So then comes the big day. It's September 10th. And at 2:30, we have our dedication program. It is led by our Master of Ceremonies, whoops, wrong button, who is Mr. Charles Arts. And we even have an informal band concert that follows the dedication, and that was led by Wallace Springman. It was a delightfully entertaining concert as old friends visited and the big crowd inspected the new institution. Radio station WMRN even broadcast the program for radio listeners. The folks that did attend were able to inspect the hospital, but we were not able to open right away because, like many supply issues right now, there was a strike at the plant for the hospital beds, so we could not receive the hospital beds right away. But the Daily Chief reported right around 3,000 people attended. That was what the estimate was. Published excerpts from the dedicatory address by Mr. Milligan. He was an Upper Native and a Columbus attorney who helped in the effort. He helped push that through at the state level. And he said, "You've demonstrated once again that the smaller county can and will care for its own, and that it affords all the necessary facilities for a better way of life." I will point out, one of my favorite features is the lamppost. These lampposts were in front of the hospital when we opened, when we were built in 1950, and when we recently remodeled, that part was being redone. And I said, no, we cannot get rid of the lampposts. And so they were moved and refurbished, and they're now on the north side of the hospital by the surgery center, so you can still see those. So I'm a little sentimental to things like that. Finally, the furnishings arrived. Thank goodness it wasn't too late. It was on September 22nd, which I think was a Friday that year, and they scurried around Friday and Saturday and got everything in place. We were able to have an open house then on the 24th, that Sunday, and a big open house, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they estimated about another 3,000 people probably came through to see the new hospital. And then finally, it's opening day, Monday, September 25th. We opened at noon, and our first patient came in at 12:30. Her name was Lily Middlemiss. So she came in right at 12:30. Our building at that point, our area under roof was a little over 12,000 square feet, our yard 52,000, and the total construction cost, that did include some equipment, was $411,000. The first meeting minutes I can find for the Medical Staff Society after that point were early in 1951, but they do indicate that once the hospital was built, the Medical Society, they were meeting jointly with hospital staff, which we continue to this day. The hospital staff meet with the medical staff. And the doctors' wives had a very active auxiliary. The doctors' wives had an auxiliary of the Medical Society, and they are the ones that organized the Hospital Guild. They had already been meeting all along and decided to invite women from throughout the county to join and form the guild. So that was started by the doctors' wives. An early information booklet for patients. It indicated that we employed 35 full-time staff. Big difference, isn't it, Ty? And visitors were asked to obtain visiting cards. I'd forgotten about visiting cards. And to refrain from smoking in the corridors. They didn't want you to smoke in the corridors. At this point, room rates were $15.50 to $16.50 a day, and that's for a private room. Or you can have a 2-bedroom for $11 a day. Also a little different, right?
Let's go back to those days.
Yeah.
Our original structure featured about 35, it featured 35 beds. Now some accounts say 30, 33. From what I'm reading, it's closer to 33 or 35 because they did have the extra funds that were given. But already by 1958, so we just opened in 1950, but by 1958 more space was needed. It talked about having people in the lobbies. It talked about having people in the hallways. So, back to the voters, we went and we built a $300,000 addition. It was completed in 1962. We had the bond issue that was passed by the local voters in those 4 townships. Another Hill-Burton grant, there were additional funds available. At first, the hospital was turned down, but at the last minute, those funds became available, and another bond issue was able to be nixed and taken off the ballot. We also received $75,000 in donations. At 1962 edition, built what we refer to as the annex, yes. When we first started there, that always confused me as to, I really didn't know, but it's the annex. That was referred to as the annex. About the same time, the Hospital Guild had raised money to help build a solarium on the south end of the hospital. That was there for patients and visitors to spend time out of their rooms and go to the solarium, which is still there. We don't use it as a solarium since patients aren't at the hospital for very long. It houses our CT scanner, but it is still there. Also, the hospital chapel, the Ministerial Association solicited funds for a chapel, so we had a place for meditation and for prayer right in-house. Some of the things added in the 62 Annex edition made room for pharmacy. That was not something we had early on. Here, it's a picture of our first pharmacist, who was John Constein, local pharmacist John Constein. He's standing there with Ruth Werlein, who served as our director of nursing director, as well as the superintendent, the CEO at the time. She served in both roles. That 62 edition provided much needed space, but already by the 1970s, about this time, changes in medical care prompted a return to the voters. So a bond issue in 1976 prepared for a modernization project. There were renovations as well as an addition. The picture here is for an addition to the ER. So the original T is in this area here. This is the annex that would have been built 62. And then renovations, the ER at this point was out to the north side, right, Thelma?
That's right.
Yep, on the north side. And with more changes in medicine, we started having helicopters come visit us. And so with the emergency room being on the north end, the helipad was created right there in the yard out towards the fairgrounds. This is also the period in the 80s that our longtime business manager, that's Martha Stephen Weaver, Fluff, known as Fluff, Fluff retired. She had been with the hospital since the day we opened, and she retired in the 80s and was a jack of all trades. And I also have to credit her. She kept a lot of very detailed notes and newspaper clippings that we're able to use as research. In the 80s, we created the tunnels. If you've never seen the tunnels, they're amazing. The original hospital had a basement, but only under part of it. We refer to that building as the 49 building, but most of it was just this very, very small crawl space. So in the 80s, Tom Kaler was the head of maintenance in the late 80s. This is Tom. You can see how tight and cramped it is. He got the idea to, let's dig her out. So, this is one of our other maintenance guys, Ray, and probably a student, worker that summer. They did it by hand and carted, they dug deeper tunnels so the guys can walk through standing up instead of crouching. They dug it out and hauled it out in wheelbarrows, all by hand. So that was done in the late 80s when Tom was there. Around the same time, we had visiting medical specialists start to come. And that's when the outpatient clinic opened. More and more doctors were coming, more and more specialists bringing care here locally, so patients didn't have to travel. And we were out of room. They set up in a trailer outside. Where was the trailer at, Thelma?
I don't remember the position it was in, but I remember working in it.
You worked in it?
Yeah,
Who did you work for out there?
Dr. Miller.
Dr. Miller? This is Dr. Miller here. Yeah.
ER used to do a lot of outpatients before we had an outpatient clinic, because we'd have to take the sutures out and stuff, because instead of going back to the doctors, we did all that. If they needed catheters or something, we ran our own outpatient clinic.
Yeah. But you were pretty cramped yourself at this point, because you were still on the north side of the hospital. How much room did you have there?
We only had 4 beds.
4 beds? Okay, couldn't remember. So, That's when, in 1990, another bond issue for 2.2 million went before voters for renovations. And really across the whole building, wasn't it? And almost everywhere really got touched by that addition. This is the ad that was in the newspaper at that time, and it really stressed that it was to meet healthcare needs of a new decade. And tremendous changes were coming. The original T of the building is still here, but the 91-92 edition then added on the front area for outpatient clinic and also redid the surgery area, did this wing over here. Also a basement under that area, so there was room for future growth. It did mean moving the ER again. This was your fourth home?
No,
No?
I didn't get it working the fourth home, which we have now.
That's the fourth one? Okay.
When the kitchen moved downstairs, then we took over the kitchen, and then we were facing north then, and then with this addition, we were facing south. So, and then they got the new one.
Yeah, one more. I'm gonna turn it over to Ty now, because this is the point in history where he comes on board, because he's been there 30 years.
I've been here 30 years. All right, so that 91, 92 edition was the last time we went to the voters. And with all the projects that we've done since then, we have not come back to the voters for more funds. We are funding our projects through board restricted funds as well as philanthropic endeavors. And so we actually retired our bond levies early, and those were retired in 1997. So, what have we been up to? You can see we've been up to a lot, and I can tell you a little bit of why as I move along here. But we purchased Home Health and Hospice and bought the Kaler Pharmacy in Kaler Corner. We are in New Regal. We are building a new building in Sycamore, as well as Tarhee Trail, Med Spa Services, the training center. Which thank God we have the training center, based upon what happened with Shaull's last week. And then Wyandot on Wheels, our drive-through lab, and then Forest and Cary are coming. And those are all being funded through board restricted gifts and or board restricted monies. So House Bill 222 passed in Ohio last year, and what that does is it really paves the way for hospitals, particular joint district township hospitals, to be able to form and or merge with other nonprofits or partner with other nonprofits. In the past, a political subdivision could not partner or merge with another nonprofit or partner with another nonprofit. So this has allowed us to do those things like Home Health and Hospice, and allowed us to purchase Kaler's because of that House bill. So we advocated for that, and I actually got invited to go to the signing, so it was quite significant. So we're still under the same leadership today. We still are owned by the 4 townships, Crane, Mifflin, Pitt, and Salem, and you can see the current trustees that are associated with those townships. They have 2 purposes, really. The township board, they own the hospital and the buildings, and so they have to take care of it. So anything, when we purchase a new building, if we have a new HVAC system or blacktopping or anything that needs done with the building, it falls in the auspices of the board of trustees. Their second purpose is to appoint a board of governors, which is the operating board of the hospital. And here's the current slate of board of governors. So we have Kyle Bowman, who represents Pitt Township. We have Roberta Ziegler, who represents Crane Township. Fred Pfeiffer is our current board chair from Mifflin Township. Beth Smith, who's in the audience today, is representing Salem Township. And we have Rob McClure and Denny Vaughn, who are at-large members. They must live within the constituency, so they have to live within the 4 townships, but they're at-large members. So we're committed to the same values, and this is your hospital. And so back at the end of 2017, we recommitted to our values and developed some new values that really talk about the history and the legacy of Wyandot Memorial. And so what is our mission? Our mission is keeping our promise to be your hospital. What does that mean? It means that we are going to remain independent. It means that we're going to remain public, and it means we're going to build on the promises that we made to the community 71 years ago. We'll turn 72 in September. Our purpose, we never had a purpose statement before 2018, and we thought we really needed one. And our purpose is providing superior, compassionate health care to all we serve. And I think it's very important, particularly in today's world with all the civil unrest that we're seeing in the world today. It doesn't matter if you have the golden insurance or no insurance at all, we have to treat people the way we ourselves want to be treated, and how we want our family members to be treated. So this is what we're living by at the hospital, and all we want all of our associates to live by. So we have a brand promise at the hospital, and these are our values that all of our employees live by, and that's progress. Better tomorrow than today. That's a constant re-engineering of ourselves, and it is never good enough. We have to be better. And I can tell you that we at the hospital and we in this world have a lot of change fatigue. And I get that, and I have it too. But in the same respect, in today's world, we're not actually standing still, we're moving backward if we're not constantly changing for a better tomorrow. And so we're constantly saying, this isn't good enough, how can we be better? Our relationships, we have to have open and honest and respectful relationships, transparent relationships, all for the betterment of our patients. So there's no elephants in the room. We have to be able to have those conversations to improve care for the patients and residents of the community. Our outcomes, we have to be fanatical and passionate about our outcomes. So we use evidence-based medicine. We partner with other facilities and tertiary facilities to get that evidence-based medicine and put those things in place, because we have to have the quality and the outcomes that we need. Making a difference, we have to reach those in need. We have a number of folks in our community that are struggling, that have access issues, whether that be financial access problems, it could be transportation access or insurance access. And so we are working hard to make sure that we're meeting those folks where they are. And then integrity, we have to do the right thing, and I always tell staff we have to do the right thing even when no one's watching, because it's easy when you're on stage. So we have to have the integrity to do what's right, for the community and the patients. Stewardship, yes, we don't receive any public funds right now, but we have to be good stewards. This is a community hospital, it's a community-owned hospital, and so we have to be good stewards of the hospital's money. And then excellence, exceptional care, exceptional service, every patient, every time, and this one always seems easy for staff, but it's very difficult because we all have stuff in our lives, and so how do you leave that stuff at the door every day and give your best? You can't. The way we do it is you have to lean on each other and lean on our teammates to make sure that, I'm having a bad day today, I need help to make sure that we can do the best, because our patients deserve it, our community deserves it. So this is our brand promise that really started in 1950, and we're bringing it forth today and continuing the legacy. So one of the things that you're seeing in healthcare is in crisis. And so you're seeing lots of hospitals that are merging, particularly small community hospitals, that are merging with large institutions. We feel our independence is very, very important because we feel care is better served locally. And when you look at those hospitals that have merged, they become staging areas and everything is shipped out to the big facility. We feel care is better served locally. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by putting our patients first, building on the legacy of Wyandot Memorial, and then working together as one hospital. If you've ever worked in hospitals, there's lots of silos, and we tend to throw each other under the bus. We can't do that. Because if one person or one department in the hospital is failing, then truly we all are. And so we have to work together, putting that patient first and putting our community first, and we feel that's what's going to ensure our independence. We do have partnerships, however. So I kind of liken Wyandot Memorial Switzerland. So we don't partner with just one. We partner with a lot of different entities. And so these are some up here. We are part of the Ohio State Health Network, which is a group of facilities that work with the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. And we get group purchasing, educational opportunities, physicians, those types of things that we work with them with. OSU Wexner Medical Center and the James Cancer Hospital, we have alliances with them. Ohio Health, we work with Ohio Health and Mount Carmel. We also have Nationwide Children's for our pediatric patients. And the Bon Secours Mercy System, which is the largest health system in Ohio. It's actually multi-state. And we actually have our computer system, our Epic computer system, and we have a MyChart. And if you haven't used MyChart, it's great. You'll be able to get your results before your doctor does. And so you can prepare for that conversation. At least that's what I do. But we do that through the Bon Secours Mercy System. We recently have partnered with MedFlight, and that just helps us to expedite transfers and to use that. And MedFlight is a group of hospitals in Columbus that own the LifeFlight system. And then medical specialists. We have a number of private medical specialists that come to our hospital to serve our community. And I can tell you, what attracts, we've attracted a lot of physicians here lately, and what is attractive to them is that we're independent and that we have modern facilities. They want to have the best equipment and they want to have the modern facilities, but they also want our independence. They don't want to be a commodity, and that's what physicians have been reduced to in a lot of the bigger places. They're just another employee, they're just a commodity, and we partner with our physicians. We feel that that's important for our patients and for the community. So, I often get asked, what's the strategy? Where's the hospital going? And this is our strategy. We need to reach those in need. One of the things we found with COVID is a lot of care gaps. And so when you talk to primary care and when you look at our emergency room and inpatients, people are coming in sicker. And the reason for that is they didn't get routine care. They said, I'm not going to get my cholesterol checked. It's COVID, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going to get that colonoscopy. I'm not going to do those preventative services. And so people are coming in sicker. And so what we're trying to do as an organization is really close those care gaps and take care of people where they are. Behavioral health is huge right now. When you look at our emergency room, a number of our visits are related to mental health. A number of visits to the primary care physicians are because of behavioral health. So we've invested in a psychiatrist. We've also invested in a nurse practitioner who is a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and we're really bolstering that behavioral health component because we have to have parity between the acute illness as well as the mental illness. Grow to serve and compete. That's what you're seeing. In order for us to remain independent, and I can tell you that our competition is looking at Wyandot County to grab more patients because they need more volume. And so we have to be able to meet the needs of our community. So we have to grow to compete and serve, and we have to meet people where they are and provide good access for services. And so that's what you're seeing, is that strategic push and direction to make sure that we're meeting people where they are and growing to serve and compete. Improve our financial health. We have to have no money, no mission, right? You have to be able to refund and redevelop and rebuild and get the modern equipment. And the equipment, I wish it was $5. It's quite a bit more than that. So to buy that new CT scanner or that new MRI piece of equipment, it's significant dollars, but that's what the physicians demand in order for their patients to be well cared for. And so we have to have our financial health needs to be there to be able to do that. Invest in our people. You've heard it. You're seeing lots of people that are struggling, particularly since COVID. So people aren't going into healthcare. They're not going into nursing. They're not going into therapies. They're not going in to be physicians. And so we have to invest in our people and retain and recruit the best. And so that's what we're really trying to do, is make sure that our people have good work-life balance, that they have wellness, and that we can be the employer of choice for them. Because that means we're going to be able to take care of you and the community the best that we can. And then deliver excellence. So we have to provide a frictionless level of care. We have really used this throughout the hospital, and when we look at our processes, we need to be frictionless for our patients. Healthcare is not frictionless. It's very difficult to navigate, and so what we're doing at the hospital is really looking at opportunities to provide that frictionless level of care. So that's our strategy. So we're going to be focusing on that the next couple of years. We've worked with the board to develop this and to drive performance throughout the organization and truly grow to serve and compete. With that, I have questions, and I know Thelma has stories. So you want to hear the real history? We need to talk to Thelma, but I'll entertain questions, or Anna will entertain questions.
Okay, say for instance, my husband and I are on vacation in, I don't know, Washington DC, and one of us takes very ill. We go to a hospital there, and they start asking questions, and we don't know all of our medical records. Can the computers talk to each other?
Throughout the nation, the majority of hospitals are now on the Epic platform, and so they would be able to pull up your chart right from Wyandot Memorial, and we can do the same. So we have a number of patients that go to tertiary facilities, so when they go to OSU or Riverside or St. Vincent's, we can pull that, it comes right into their chart, and we know exactly what happened at those facilities. And that's the nice part about Epic. So we're very fortunate to have it. I can tell you that Epic, they don't sell to small hospitals. We had to partner with a tertiary facility. They only sell to larger facilities. So we have to become a community partner with that tertiary facility. And so we looked at a number of them and chose the Bon Secours system to be able to partner. But yes, it's nice. The other thing, I can tell you, all of our primary care providers are doing telemedicine, because that's what the community demands, it's what the younger folk demand. And so you could be in Washington and you could pull up a telehealth visit with them, and then they could instruct you to go to the nearest emergency room, or they can say, no, I can take care of this, I'll call it into a pharmacy there. So that's one nice feature as well.
That's nice.
Does the same thing happen overseas?
It can, as long as there's appropriate internet access, it can, but I don't know about the e-prescribing or anything of that nature. It might be a little bit more difficult to navigate.
Have you lost any people in the basement yet?
Yes.
Well, I thought so, yeah. You got it, color code the wall.
Yeah, we're working on wayfinding, but we developed, our new specialty healthcare opened this week.
Yeah, we were there yesterday.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And it's quite large, but it needed to happen to be able to accommodate all the specialists that we have coming in. But now we have to keep specialists separate. So there are specialists that rent space from the hospital, and they're going to be at the existing specialty healthcare center, and the new specialty healthcare center will be physicians that we employ.
That's nice.
Which are we employ more than the rental physicians.
So, over Cary Way, it looks as though Blanchard Valley has invaded Wyandot County. Is that what they did, or is it some prior arrangement?
Well, sure. So they built a center in Cary. So we're building a center in Cary, and we actually the third reading of the ordinance occurred Monday, and so that passed. And so there's a 30-day waiting period, and during that 30-day waiting period, we are going to be doing some, surveying and environmental surveying and that type of thing, and then we're going to close in about 31 days, and then we'll be putting that project out for bid. And so we'll be building there. And Dr. Puckett, as well as Dr. Kerry Harris, will be moving up to that building.
Where is the new specialty care?
Specialty care is in the basement of the new surgery center. So if you come in the new surgery center, which is to the north, you take the elevator down and you're literally right in the lobby of that specialty center.
So she was.
Yeah, literally right in the lobby, but you gotta like elevators.
I did, I used the stairs.
There's stairs there as well.
Elevator's only about 2 by 2.
Yeah, it's a smaller
Not very big.
elevator. It is a smaller elevator.
And I couldn't get in it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this question is more for Ann.
Mhm.
With all the archives from the medical society, do you have those there at the hospital, the records that you were referencing?
I do. I have a couple of notebooks, and actually Dr. Brown had those, and when he retired from practice, he passed those along to me so that I could have those. And it's amazing to have to see those minutes. Amazing.
Are those publicly accessible with an appointment or something?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, anytime. I want to ask Thelma for some dirt, and then Bonnie will get back and we won't forget. Not really dirt, but I know. But the real history, the Mifflin plane crash.
Oh, yeah, we've had some exciting things happen in Wyandot County with a small hospital, and I didn't come till 59, so it was 9 years old when I got here, and I think you were here, Dr. Shaull, weren't you? All three of you?
57.
Yeah. And, Mifflin, we had that plane crash, and they put the bodies, at Mifflin School, and I remember Rita Garber, who was director of nursing, and I went down there to help and so forth, but, and then we had the blizzard, and we've had a train crash, and, what was her name, Connie
Chung.
Called to see how many patients we had. We only had 3, and they weren't serious. And we did take a person off a train, and she was traveling with her little niece, and maybe I shouldn't bring this up. I think I'll pass on that.
Now they're all like, what? Just tell us.
Well, we thought it was a woman because she was dressed like a woman, and she was very sick, and she was in the process of being a transgender, And, we didn't know that until we had to do some things. But it's, and then, a lot of times we get calls from other hospitals that there were, people, seeking drugs and pretending they were having heart attacks, and they, of course, they want morphine or something of that order. And so they would pass the information that they just had them in their ER, and they're heading north, you know, so look out. And sometimes we got them, sometimes they went to Tiffin or whatever, Finley, the bigger hospitals, you know, but they picked on little hospitals because they didn't think we knew that much. But we did, didn't we?
Sure did.
And of course, the blizzard was a big thing, and the patients, they just wanted to go home. And this one man insisted that he wanted to go home. And of course, we had no hot food. We had a generator just to keep the lights and the heat on, but Don Stutz, who used to have a restaurant in the Bourne Alley in Cary, cooked for what he could cook, you know, very little. And this guy kept saying, I want to go home, I don't like your breakfast or anything. So we had to put him in a wheelchair, take him to the back door and show him that the snow was up to here, you know. So he wasn't going anywhere, because we were hardly going anywhere. And let's see what else. Moving to different areas in the hospital. Of course, when I came, we didn't have doctors that stayed in the hospital like they have a hospitalist now and everything, which is great. We had to call the doctors to come in if we needed them, but the nurses were in charge. And I know Ruth Orline hired me, and I told her at first that I didn't really like OB. So the first night I was there on 311 in OB. But then I ended up, the nurses then had to know every department, because you didn't know where, you might have to cover that department. So I was in surgery, and I went to coronary care school when they opened the coronary care unit. But I really didn't work there very much, but it helped me in the ER tremendously to have coronary care education too. And I worked in surgery, which I loved, and then I went to ER. I worked on med-surg too a lot too with Mary Rife. And she started, I think she started right after the hospital. It was 51, I think Mary came.
She started at 51.
I wasn't here in 51,
No,
so.
you weren't. Well, I wasn't either, so.
Yeah.
But I talked to Mary a lot, and she's right now, I think the oldest person that worked at Wyandot Memorial. But it's been I love the hospital. I just love nursing, and I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I've had a wonderful experience. But I've been retired 26 years, and I worked 37, so I'm almost retired already. 37. You know, but if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I know Dory had an education at the school. She was a school nurse.
Right.
And she just went to the Grant reunion. We both graduated from Grant. It was just amazing when I came from Grant, how many nurses were from Grant. Pat Britton and Laura Massey, who worked nights, and
Dora Kin,
yeah,
Dora Kin,
and Rita Parker,
Dorothy Leslie.
Dorothy Leslie. Oh yeah, she was. Yeah. My sister was a year ahead of me, and of course we had a 3-year program, which they don't have anymore. But we only had 2 weeks off in our 3 years. You know, every year we had 2 weeks off. Now they have 6 months off and come back and do some more and so forth. But I think we had a good education in a 3-year program, and I was happy with it. So. Anything else?
Let's see what Bonnie's question
Yeah,
was.
this is not really medically important, but I think I remember when nurses used to wear the white stockings and the shoes and the white cap. Did you have to wear that outfit all the time that you worked?
Till I quit in '96.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
I
did.
would like to see that back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
personally.
I mean, you just,
I have written a poem about it.
do you remember it?
I don't know if I can remember, I got it written down, but it says, where, oh, where had the nurses in white gone? Where, oh, where can they be? now they say in charcoal black and never a cat is seen. But they're, what used to be white hose and shiny white shoes now are any colored socks and athletic shoes. And then it goes on, but I just said that, you know, their heart is the same and they're getting good care, but I hope in a few years down, maybe that will evolve and the nurses will come back in white again, you know, but I would really like to see nurses in white.
You can't tell who is a janitor and who is a physician.
Well, they're all color coded, you know, the lab's color coded, and I don't know if X-ray is, are
Yep, they're all color
and the
coded.
nurses are in charcoal black now, so.
Yeah.
But they said that they got so much stuff on their white uniform. I wore a white uniform for 40-some years, and I could do gauntlets on and everything else, but, you know, we just kept wondering why.
You could use bleach on that, whereas a black colored thing, you wouldn't be able to clean it as well.
I know. But anyway, that's just how life evolves. Mhm. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
Why black? Sounds.
They're not black, it's charcoal gray, right? It's like it's gray. They picked it.
Yeah,
They picked it. Each of the departments picked their own.
But that's not universal, is it?
No, that's only to Wyandot Memorial. But most hospitals do the same thing, but it might be a different color.
Ron, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering where the early nurses that worked for Wyandot Memorial got their degrees, because I know the forerunners of the Hardin Memorial Hospital actually ran their own nursing programs.
It sounds like Grant Medical Center is where a lot of them went, which is a 3-year program, is that correct?
Well,
Where-
Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel as well.
San Antonio Hospital
And
actually had a
Mansfield.
nursing school.
Ohio State had
Yeah, Ohio State had their own nursing.
I think Mary went to Massillon, didn't she? Mary.
No, she went to,
Shoot.
she went to Kent State, didn't she, Mary Rife?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. where
She was in Massillon at some point, I know.
Massillon and then also in Cincinnati. Wasn't she down there too?
Well, we went to children's and psychiatric in different towns all over when we were in nursing
TB.
training. We had TV stand too. We had to spend 3 months in the TV stand. But they don't have those anymore.
No.
I don't know what they do with
Wyandot
TV
Memorial
patients.
never had their own nursing program.
They don't have psych hospitals anymore either.
Yeah.
Do they go to children's?
Oh, yeah, we went to children's.
I
too.
know we did, do they now?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do a pediatric rotation, yeah.
I got a question for Thelma.
What?
When was the first time I met you?
Well, probably when I came in 59. Were you at Grand Hospital? This DP Smith was too. And you were doing your internship?
Externship.
Yeah, I think Dr. Smith was too, wasn't he? But I was so amazed when I came to Upper, after I got married and came to Upper, and all you guys were here, all the grand nurses and everything.
Yeah, your sister was there at the same time.
Yeah, she was
Both
a
you
year
and your
ahead of me,
sister.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And of course, the biggest one was my wife.
That's right.
She had already graduated, and she was working on weekends at the emergency room while she was going and getting her BA degrees at Ohio State.
That's a wonderful story.
I have a story about Dr. Brown.
Oh, Ian Leonard was too.
Dr. Brown?
Yes, when he had,
Pardon?
excuse me, after he had surgery there, well, he told me that he used to tell his patients that had cesarean to stand up straight while they were walking. Then he had surgery, and he said he will never, ever again tell his mothers to walk up, stand up straight when they were walking.
I think I did hear that.
What's going on with Cato's Corner?
So we had quite a bit of smoke damage.
Yes.
And so we're out at the training center now, and we're gonna be getting in the process of remodeling that. So we just have to analyze plans. We're not gonna move them back until it's completely remodeled. rather than go back and forth, it'll just be, now we don't have to do it in place, we can just, instead of phasing it, we can just get in there and do it.
You have any idea at the time?
I don't, we have to wait, the board's evaluating the plans, and once they approve that, then we'll put it out for bid. I would say 8 to 12 months.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do they do at the training center?
So we have a full-time nurse educator, and we do like ACLS training, CPR training, you know, they have them set up as rooms, and so they get out of the hospital and go to this training center. It's a constant, you know, training for different things, so they can do an EKG course, an interpreter. Yeah.
Is it mainly for the nurses?
It's for everybody, so nursing, clinical folks go there, but we have our orientation there, we have computer labs, because you have to have so many hours of Epic training before you can even get on Epic, which is our EMR, and so they have to go there and do computer training, so there's computer labs, significant training, ongoing training. Yeah. So.
Any other questions? Thank you so much
Yes,
for your
thank you
attention.
all so very
Really
much.
Well, thank you to Dr. and Mrs. Silva, Thelma, Ty. I'm having a senior moment.
That's okay.
Anyway, don't take me to the hospital right now. Anyway, thank you for all your service to Upper Sandusky. We really appreciate it. And this is just a PS. I love the food at the hospital. I'm really an old fart because sometimes I go out there and take a book and have my lunch out there.
You're not alone.
So, thank you for all you do for the community.
I want to mention that before we started this program, I showed Ann, we actually have a photo album from the groundbreaking ceremony that was here in the museum collection that I pulled out to show her, and so that if anybody wants to go take a look at it, but they're going to actually scan some of those images and we're going to provide more information to the hospital of their early history of some images that they did not know or have before. So this is again a great partnership between the communities working together to share our combined history. So I want to thank you for that history. It helps me as the director here to be able to tell a little bit more of the story of the hospital.
Thank you.